Finally tonight, we launched an 18-month focus on the nation's high school dropout rate. The American Graduate Project, a partnership with Public Radio and Television, will examine the breadth of the problem as well as its consequences. The numbers are staggering. 1/3 of U.S. high school students don't graduate on time, and Latino and African American boys are twice as likely to become high school dropouts. The result? Higher rates of incarceration, unemployment, and poverty. Among the solutions increasingly is community involvement and high-wattage celebrity attention. Oscar-winning film director Ron Howard joined basketball star LeBron James, singer Ashanti, and actor Denzel Washington in Washington today to unveil a new public service announcement for the Boys and Girls Clubs of America.
Every child follows a path in life. For many, that path will lead them to a door that gives them a place to grow.
I'm a great believer and lover of the country, believer in the dream, what the country aspires to, or sometimes I feel what it purports to aspire to. And it's up to us to act on that.
We spoke about the dropout crisis afterward with Denzel Washington, the Boys and Girls Club's longtime national spokesman.
Fundamentally, we are failing our kids. It is not their fault. It is if there's fault to be, it's the fault of the adults.
When you say we're failing our kids, there are so many fingers being pointed at the schools, at government, at parents, and sometimes at the kids themselves. Is there a finger?
Well, I'm not here to point fingers. It starts in the home. I'm about solutions. You know, if 3 out of 10 drop out, that means 7 out of 10 don't. I'm trying to turn that 7 into an 8 or into a 9. The work we do at the Boys and Girls Clubs are helping to do that. In the last 10 years, we've doubled the number of children we reach. We've gone from 1,800 clubs to 4,000 clubs, from 2 million young people to 4 million young people. So I'm about being a part of the solution. We are making progress, and we're here in Washington to get more support, and we reach out to people across America for their support, because what we're doing at the Boys and Girls Clubs work. It's one thing to sit around and talk about what the problems are, you know, but it's another thing to get off your behind and actually do something about it, and that's what I'm about. I'm not about complaining about what the statistics are and how awful it is. I'm about doing something about it. And if one is not about actually doing something, then one should really keep their mouth shut or move out of the way and allow someone who wants to help to help. We can all volunteer.
Where are the most effective solutions to be found? In government, you're here in Washington, or in communities?
In each and every one of us. You forget asking the government. Now we, the Boys and Girls Club, get a tremendous financial support directly from the Department of Justice, but also from the federal government. I mean, the Department of Justice understands. They spend the money with us early. They don't need to spend it on prisons or incarceration or policing later on.
There's talk that early warning signs are things that you need to be watching for in order to change these outcomes that we've been talking about. What kinds of early warning signs should, whether it's teachers or individuals or community groups or organizations like yours, be watching for?
I mean, fundamentally, it's parenting. My mother said that your biggest influence on your children will be in their first 5 years. Because in those days it was 5 years, because once you went to kindergarten, once you started going to school, you were influenced by others. So it starts in the home. I mean, the fundamental responsibility, or the problem, if we want to call it that, is the breakdown of the family, and that obviously directly affects the child.
Is the solution also to be found inside schools or primarily outside of schools? Because there's a lot of discussion about dropout factories and schools which don't turn out performing or high-performing students.
Right. Again, I think it starts in the home. Your first 4 or 5 years of preparation before you go to school. Obviously, the teachers have an obligation, the parents have an obligation, and where we come in, and we're again going back to the Boys and Girls Club. I mean, the most dangerous time for children are between 3 and 6 o'clock when they're out of school. They're going to join some club. They're going to line up with the athletes, the jocks, or the jerks, or the nerds, or the goths, or the druggies. They're gonna do something You know, they're going to be negatively influenced unless they're positively influenced, and that is our responsibility as adults.
As you balance out the three prongs of this, healthy lifestyles and good citizenship and academic achievement, how important is academic achievement in all of this?
Absolutely important. I mean, it's one thing to know, it's one thing to make money, it's another thing to know how to count it. You know, but education, I remember my mother used to take us, put us in the car on Sunday, and ride us around wealthy neighborhoods. And we would imagine which house was going to be ours. And that was a part of our education. You know, they talk about role models, and you see, I don't know, me or LeBron James or somebody on TV bouncing a basketball. But your real role models are those people that are in your club, those people that are in your environment that affect you either positively or negatively. If all you see every day is the drug dealer and he's the only one or she's the only one that has a Mercedes, that's what you're going to aspire to. So it's up to all of us to reach out.
As you mentioned, you're here, LeBron James is here, Jennifer Lopez is involved, there's a Beyonce song in the video. What difference does it make if these words come from celebrities, from well-known people?
It doesn't make any difference, but there are those people, like I said, and when I grew up in the club, I loved Muhammad Ali, but I couldn't get him on the phone. But I was able to talk to my mentor, Billy Thomas, or different people in the club. I remember I had a debate as I was about 9 or 10 years old. I had a debate with the mayor of our town. He spoke and he said, anybody have any questions? And I had a couple of questions. So I didn't particularly believe he was giving me the real answers. So I kept asking until they made me sit down. It's a true story. But there was a gentleman in the club, Charles White, who worked at the club, and he said, young man, with your smarts, you can be anything you want to be. And I never forgot that. I walked out of that building. I said, wow, I never heard that before. I can be anything I want to be. Yeah, okay, I count. I'm important. So I didn't hear that from Muhammad Ali. I heard that from Charles White.
As you have watched children grow through this effort, have things changed? Has it gotten tougher for this generation of young people? Are they different than they were when you came along?
I think us older people are just cynical because we got more years behind us than we do in front of us. I remember speaking, I was doing a movie, Malcolm X, and we were shooting at Columbia University. In between takes, I was like, we used students. In between takes, we were talking about all the issues of the day, and it's this, and the world is, and this was 20 years ago. I can imagine what the conversation would be like now. And basically I said, so what are you going to do? You're going to give up? And they're like, no, we're going to change things. That didn't even come into their mind. I said, that's me, the older, cynical one that's thinking like that. So I enjoy working with young people and listening to young people because young people are positive. Us older folk are the ones that, it's all going to hell in a handbasket. But that's the way we think. I don't think that's the way it is.
Denzel Washington, thank you so much for joining
pleasure.
us. We'll report more on the dropout problem in coming months. American Graduate is a public media initiative funded by the Corporation for Public Broadcasting. Now, another in our series on the nation's high school dropout crisis. Tonight, one man's journey from gang member and dropout to professor, and his efforts to keep other young men from making his mistakes. Ray Suarez has our American Graduate story.
My name is Victor Rios. In 1994, this was me. I was introduced to the nation in a Frontline documentary. I was a gang member, a juvenile delinquent, and a high school dropout.
But in the 18 years that followed, Victor Rios earned his high school diploma, finished college, earned a PhD from the University of California at Berkeley, and wrote 2 books on his life and his research on juvenile delinquency. He now teaches sociology at UC Santa Barbara and helps at-risk youth navigate the perils of adolescence.
I'm sure you're closer to some people than others.
Rios is also a family man with a wife, Rebecca, and 3 children. Life is constantly busy.
To be this far into the future, I feel like I've lived 2 lifetimes.
Born in Mexico, he came to the U.S. with his mother at the age of 2 and was raised on the rough streets of Oakland. His mother found menial work and the family barely scraped by, living in some of the city's most notorious projects.
So we ended up in some of the worst neighborhoods in Oakland, and we had to face some of the violence, poverty, dilapidated housing. For example, one day my little cousin, he was sleeping in his crib. We had rats, big rats, crawled on his crib and began to chew his face up, his lips, his gums, his cheeks. He was hospitalized for months and his face had to be reconstructed. And so this is the kind of dire poverty we lived in.
That dire poverty led Rios to drop out for the first time in 8th grade. He secretly mowed lawns to help his mother pay the bills, but she found out and made him return to class. Not long after, at 14, Rios joined a neighborhood gang for protection from the violence of the streets around him. Gang life, coupled with bad relationships with teachers and other authority figures, eventually led him to drop out of school again.
The gang was influencing my thoughts about school because our whole day was organized around, number one, surviving, and school didn't provide us the resources to survive.
Life on the streets became increasingly dangerous. Rios left home and was stealing cars, sometimes living in them for months at a time. And when he was 15, his best friend, a fellow gang member they called Smiley, was murdered during a fight with their rivals.
Smiley's death changed my life around in that I began to reflect. I began to think about what can happen to me. I began to think about facing hard time in prison if I continued on this path, like many of my friends, or ending up dead, like Smiley.
Rios says it was at this crucial moment, the point when he was ready to make a change in life, that one adult was there for him. It was a teacher. Her name was Ms. Russ.
She walks up to me. She says, "Victor, are you okay? I heard what happened." And I told her, "Yeah, I'm okay." But she didn't believe me. She tapped me on the shoulder. She said, I know you're not okay." And I began to cry, like a little kid in front of the whole school. The teacher reached out, opened her arms, gave me a hug, and said, "Victor, when you're ready to change your life around, I'll be here for you, but you have to do the work."
With the help of mentors, Rios says he began making a slow transformation, but the lure of the street life was still there, haunting him on a daily basis.
One day, I'm in the other side of town, and I pick a fight on the street in front of a school, a rival school. And a police officer came by and stopped us, handcuffed me. I was on probation. And he knew this. He threw me in the back of the car and he said, "I could arrest you and you could go to jail for a long time." I told him, "Officer, I'm trying to change my life around." He started talking to me. He said, "Listen, kid, I'm going to give you one more chance. But if I see you around here again, I'm going to take you in for a long time." I respected my deal with him.
It was that deal that helped get him on the path to a high school diploma, then to college and eventually a doctorate.
I don't think they realize today how important their second chance for me was. At the time, it was important for me to hear an adult tell me, "Listen, we know you're a mess up. We know you've been to juvie. We know you're caught up on the streets. We know you're a dropout, but we still believe in you." And they gave me that dignity, and I ran with it, and I'm still running.
Even now, Rios is navigating between two worlds on most days. He juggles his duties as a college professor and high school researcher, all the while studying and mentoring at-risk young men in Santa Barbara.
My name is Miguel. I'm 19 years old. I was born and raised in Santa Barbara, and I've been labeled as a gang member down here. If I hadn't met Dr. Rios, I honestly think I would have probably been in jail.
Miguel asked us not to use his last name. He first met Professor Rios about 2 years ago when he took part in a sociology study.
I felt like I can relate to him. So he knew what we are about, and he knows where we come from. He knows how to come at us, what level of respect come at us.
Miguel's two older brothers were in gangs. He had his first interaction with the juvenile justice system at the age of 12 after he stole a bike. Miguel never really liked going to class and eventually left school for good without a high school diploma. Now that he's joined Rios' program, though, Miguel now aims to complete his GED and hopes to one day become a mechanic.
I've seen Miguel grow over the last couple years. I've seen him become a leader in the community.
Miguel knows he's still a work in progress.
I mean, I'm not going to go to sleep, the devil one night and wake up the next day I have wings, I mean, everyone's got room for change for the better, And I'm still young, so got a lot of room for changing.
And he's encouraging others to do the same. Miguel is now helping his friend Hector, a 15-year-old sophomore, avoid the mistakes he made.
He's had my back. I've had his back. He's helped me out a lot. He encourages me, tells me to stay in school, just get it over with, and help me out in the future. And yeah, I trust him.
It's a pay-it-forward strategy that Victor Rios, the gang member turned university professor, still can't believe he put in motion.
If during the time I was on the street as a teenager, someone approached me, an angel came to me and said, hey, hang in there, man, because when you're 34, you're going to have a beautiful family, a wonderful household, a great job. You're going to be a PhD from Berkeley. You're going to have written 2 books, and you'll be an award-winning professor. I would have laughed. So now it's my job to let them know that it's not a joke, to let them know that I believe in them the way that my teacher believed in me, to let them know that there are second chances.
Rios is now working on a book that's examining the achievement gap at Santa Barbara High School.
Our next story profiles a photographer who documents the reality of life for dropouts caught up in the juvenile justice system. American Graduate is a public media initiative funded by the Corporation for Public Broadcasting.
2.5 years ago, Omarina Cabrera, a student at Middle School 244 in the Bronx, was struggling.
My first year here, me and my mom, we got evicted. I felt shattered. That was a home that I had for my whole life, and I grew up there. I didn't know what was gonna happen next. That period of not knowing wasn't something that I felt comfortable with. I felt this inkling in me that I would never want my children or anyone else experience this.
Shuffled between relatives' apartments, some without even electricity, Omarina suffered another loss.
When I was really young, my father walked out for whatever reason. I finally got in touch with him. Just before we were about to talk and I was about to go see him, he had a stroke. And I had to leave to the Dominican Republic and see my father for the first time, and it was in a casket.
With her home life in chaos, Omarina's school life began to suffer. She didn't know it, but she was starting down a path that so many other young people take. Every year, over 1 million students fail to finish high school.
Even kids in the most dire circumstances really want a future. They just need to have a path to it.
For 15 years, Robert Belfans, a leading education researcher, had been studying the population of children who drop out of high school. Then he realized that the key moment when kids begin to go down the wrong path was in middle school.
What does that refer to? Stephanie?
When a line divides the parabola into 2 equal parts.
If in the middle grades you've developed habits of not coming to school regularly, of getting in trouble, or failing your courses, you bring that with you to high school. And the schools aren't designed to help them succeed.
But how do you identify those middle school kids most at risk? What exactly are the warning signs? Belfans and his team harvested data from dozens of high-poverty schools, schools where at least 40% of the students qualify for government-subsidized lunch.
We looked at about 40 different variables, and we put that into a big statistical analysis and said we want factors that are highly reliable and also yield a large number of kids in trouble.
And within this chaotic tangle of data, the team found something revealing.
And basically out of this mix, 4 came out really strong. And that was our sort of eureka moment. I saw kids waving their hands saying, help me stay on track.
The data showed that if a 6th grade child in a high-poverty school attends school less than 80% of the time, or fails math or English, or receives an unsatisfactory behavior grade in a core course, that absent effective intervention, there is a 75% chance that they will drop out of high school.
It may seem far less than rocket science, but it's something that in fact schools by and large have not paid attention to.
Schools have long collected statistics on absences, behavior, and of course grades. But many educators don't recognize the significance of those numbers. The principal of Middle School 244, Dolores Peterson, is one who did.
The Bell-France research was so interesting to us because we looked at it and we said, this is a great way to identify our students at a very early stage.
Students like Omarina Cabrera, who had been showing up late or not at all.
At the beginning, I felt alone and I felt ashamed, and I didn't want to speak to anyone about it. I just isolated myself from everything and everyone.
But the data spoke for Omarina. Every week at Middle School 244, statistics are collected and reviewed by a team of counselors and teachers.
Attendance. Everyone's with me? Yes. Let's go to 802. Omarina. How is Omarina doing?
The students most in need are flagged.
Currently, her mother's not even in the United States right now. They were in a shelter not that long ago, then they were evicted, so she's having to go between relatives.
And their assigned counselor organizes an intervention.
I took her home one day, and it's like it's a double commute. It's a bus to a train. It's on the other side of the world, you can say.
I can't tell you how much I worry every time she leaves this building.
When she leaves this building, she's on her own.
Let her know that we're going to support her and keep us posted on what she needs. Our students face challenges sometimes that young children shouldn't have to face. And they need that support of the adult to help them through it.
It's all going to work out. And it's just
Catherine Miller was Omarina's homeroom teacher.
So once Omarina was identified, it was imperative on my part as a homeroom teacher, in consultation with the guidance counselor and administration, to discuss why she was coming in late so many times.
They came to me and they asked me, what's wrong? You've been late a lot. Something has to be wrong. And that's when I told Ms. Miller that I was evicted.
Your mother needs to feel safe, or she needs to feel good about where you are, as do you, and the best we can do right now. We can compile thousands of numbers about who's failing this or who's passing that, but if there's no response to that data, if there's no initiative taken to understand that data, it's all for naught.
It became clear that a chaotic home life was the source of Omarina's problem at school, and she needed targeted, practical support.
All right, so you're going to take this one today.
The team helped her figure out routes to school from ever-changing addresses, got her a bus pass and books.
Ms. Miller told me that I can work through it, that I'm strong enough, that I'm courage to do it. And the fact that she believed in me, I believed in me. And that's something that not a lot of people go through.
They need an adult counterforce. Someone to say, did you get your work done? Let me make sure you understand it. And also deal with, like, I know you're having trouble with this teacher or that teacher or these kids. Let's work it out. Let's solve it now. It's that sense of shepherding is what the kids need to know that an adult not only cares, but the adult can actually help them.
How's it going at home?
It's good. It's not completely settled because of my mom, but I think it's calmer than before.
That's great. That's great. And your brothers?
Omarina has two brothers, one older and one her twin.
My first year here, I had a lot of different things going on. I had my brother who was so smart, and he was just like me. He's my twin. My brother began to be exposed to a lot of the things that were out there. And not only him, but a lot of us were, not a lot of kids make the right choice, and that is happening a lot of times in the Bronx for a lot of people.
In the summer after 6th grade, her twin started hanging out on the streets and getting in trouble. His mother had him transferred to another school, thinking he'd be safer in a different neighborhood. But today, Omarlin rarely attends school, and his future seems uncertain.
Where am I gonna go to high school? I don't know. I haven't got my letter yet of acceptance.
The fact that he got involved with the streets and the fact that he let the neighborhood influence him, he just began slipping off the mountain, slipping off, slipping off, slipping off. It really was a difficult time for me. However, I think the only reason I got through it was because of the support. People brought to me, Ms. Miller and my guidance counselor. The fact that they told me you're bright and you're special and drove me and encouraged me. They told me never to quit and never let your dreams end at the corner of Sedgwick Avenue. I don't think I would be where I am today. And I wish my brother could have gone on the journey with me as well.
By the time she was in the 8th grade, Omarina had achieved near perfect attendance and had an average in the 90s.
Who agrees and why? Marina.
Because when you solve negative b over 2a to get the vertex.
Soon she began working on applications to some of the nation's best high schools.
I thought that was your best essay. Read it to me again. I love it.
Typically, young adults look upon a political figure or someone in their life for guidance and support. I, on the other hand, seem to find this inspiration within a black and white street sign. Imprinted on the signs are the words, "one way." It taunts me with the inevitable reminder that coming in is not the obstacle, but making it out. I don't think that me and my brother are on the same road, and I think he fell off, and that's really sad. The way you take me to school is important. He didn't, and that's why we're going on different paths, I guess.
Any school can use this system to keep kids on track, and what's going to vary from school to school is the extent they're going to need to recruit an outside second shift of adults to help, and that's going to really just depend on the sheer number of kids.
Middle School 244 reallocated their resources, hiring fewer school aides, redistributing responsibilities among the teachers, and hiring an additional counselor. Now there is an adult assigned to help every at-risk student.
Ready? Court, start them off. Louder than that, let's go. You're a small group, so you need to make sure that you sound like something.
When I came to the school, my opinion about school did change. Before, I felt that school was a waste of time.
Before I came here, I didn't like learning a lot. I used to, like watching TV, like going on the computer.
When I wake up and I know I have to go to school in the morning, I have something to look forward to.
I like that I can go to a teacher when I need help.
My hobby is researching more history, armies.
I am proud of myself because from last year in April, I was doing really bad, and now in April, I'm doing really good.
These are some of the success stories at Middle School 244. But even this school can't help all their at-risk students. And in America's high-poverty schools, there are few intervention programs like the one at Middle School 244.
That's what makes it so interesting with my brother. I think that's what I would be. I would be not in the school, and I think I wouldn't care. And the fact that I would get into a college wouldn't be that big of a deal. And the fact that I go on to high school, that wouldn't matter to me. I can get my GED later. That's what I would say.
But chances are Omarina won't be settling for a GED. She's just found out she's been accepted at 9 high schools, including an elite boarding school in Massachusetts.
Oh, Marina, I'm so excited for you. So what did you decide? Which school did you choose?
After giving it a lot of thought, I went with Brooks.
So are you excited?
Yeah.
I know I am. How does it feel, Miss Miller?
It's very humbling, and I'm incredibly proud of your accomplishments.
Oh, Miss Miller, you're gonna make me cry. Oh, come here, stop it.
Omarina Cabrera is on her way to graduating. But across the country, thousands of students remain at risk, hidden in the data.
The reason I dropped out of high school was so I can help support my family.
I just really didn't feel the need to go to school because I wasn't learning anything.
When they told me I had to go to summer school, again, I was like, nah, I don't want to do that.
I decided to basically put school on hold and find a job.
I found out that I was 3 months pregnant.
I got kicked out because I caught a charge in school.
Starting a new high school is, the whole pressure is overwhelming.
Just bothering me, walking me to class, saying little names here and there, it just really got annoying after a while. And every day when you go to lunch and you're eating and there's a crew watching you, it's not fun anymore to be in school.
Then I had some complications with a boyfriend, decided I wanted to be with him more than to actually going to school.
What's my point for being here? Why should I listen to this teacher? What does this lesson have to do with my life?
I got into a lot of fights in high school, and that led to me getting kicked out of Oak my freshman year.
I had a lot of support. They actually wanted me to stay. We had tutors, they had counseling, they had meetings with my father to set up meetings to have me stay at the school.
I was the oldest of 7 at that time, so I had to help contribute for my family needs.
I always had fun hanging out on weekends, hanging out with friends. I always did very well in school.
Just put my head down and go to sleep. I just didn't want to be in school. I was that person that just did not want to go to school. Used to hate waking up in the morning to go to school and stuff like that.
And actually it was more stressful because I felt like I was going nowhere in my life. I would see all my friends, the school buses going by, they were doing something constructive with their day. I was just sitting home all day, and it gets a little depressing.
I'd help my mom with whatever she had to do, but pretty much my life was nothing.
When I dropped out, it was obviously there was consequences, and I was kind of depressed and sad, and I kind of failed myself and failed my family.
I thought I was the coolest kid, but then a week into it, I was like, this is really boring. There's nothing to do. Everybody's at school. I can't call anybody. I can't go to nobody's house because everybody's at school and there's nothing for me to do. So I started to try and go and get a job.
Like I said, I was just young and dumb. I looked at it like, I don't need a high school diploma. I got a good job. I can make good money.
I went to go get a job, but I realized that nobody was hiring me. I didn't know why, and then I realized it was because I didn't have a diploma, I didn't have a GED or nothing.
You will get these little seasonal jobs, and after 3 months, after 4 months, you're gone. You could be one of the best workers, but employment right now is very difficult, especially if you don't have a high school diploma or a GED.
Minimum wage jobs, you could be making $10 an hour, and places might give you $7.50 because you don't have a high school education or you don't have your GED.
I wanted my own car, I wanted my own house, I wanted these things, but I realized that the jobs that were ahead of me weren't going to pay me the money for true independence. Studio time is expensive, so after I'm done paying rent, after I'm done paying food, after I'm done paying my cell phone bill, how much money do I actually have left to record for studio time?
McDonald's isn't going to support 2 kids, not even 1.
Without your high school diploma, you're going to earn less than $1 million over your lifetime. But if you graduate from high school, you will earn $500,000 more. If you went on to a 2-year college, you can earn $1 million more. If you continue on and go into a 4-year college, you can earn close to $2 million more. That's $3 million over your lifetime, just with your education.
The school was ready to eject me, so she wanted me to come down, I guess, to sign papers, and that's when I decided, I didn't want to be kicked out of school.
I found help from a couple people The first step was my counselor. I explained to him that I wanted to finish my education, and that I needed good money, I needed a good income, and we came to understanding that I would have to get my GED to get a better income and not make a BS minimum wage.
You might not fit in that box of going back to school, so there's alternative programs where you can get your diploma.
I was definitely hesitant because I saw it as the GED isn't worth it. I want my diploma.
My girlfriend brought me here, told me about the place. I talked to the counselors, and I seen that everybody was very cool in this building. So, I mean, why not? What else is going to happen?
I went to the GED school. Getting back in school again, it helped me because I met other people who were like me. I had a couple friends who had kids themselves and who faced the same problems as me.
If you need a tutoring or counseling, they're here for you. They're not just here as case manager or the director of the program, but as a friend also that you could talk to. So that was great in a way because I had somebody to talk to if I felt down or depressed about anything because I didn't really have it at home.
It's here, it's more of it's kind of like a family environment because everybody helps each other. If someone's having trouble, someone who knows how to do it will come and help you.
I was with kids that are just like me, that don't like school, that quit, that want to do better for themselves.
I like the fact that you get to work at your own pace. You're not forced to learn something. You work on something until you absolutely understand it, and then you move on.
And I do want to learn this stuff because all this stuff is going to apply to stuff that I might want to be working later on in the future, like construction or graphic designing, or even when you make beats, you got to use numbers. If you have a talent and a skill, and a discipline that, you actually be in demand. I just wanted to be in demand. I wanted to feel important about what I'm doing, and I wanted people to look at me as I was important. So I said, I'm going to go back to school. Because everyone who I seen who had that, they all had a degree.
I did a lot of stuff to get my diploma, and at any time I could have stopped. Like during the summer program, if I would have missed more than 3 days, I would have gotten kicked out. If I was late more than 3 days, I could have gotten kicked out, but I made sure I was there early. I made sure I passed all of my tests. I made sure I did my work.
So in school, it was so hard for me. When I found this program, it was just like heaven. I just didn't know. I just wanted to scream when I got my diploma,
I don't want to be doing something that I'm not interested in. I don't want to go to work knowing that I'm not comfortable working there. I want to go to work knowing that I'm going to help people out today and I'm going to go home happy. Students deal with, did I mess up too bad? Is it too late for me? I think once they understand that, listen, there is a pathway, there is still a chance, you still do have a chance. Listen, I did it. Honestly, I was there and you can get out of it. And I think for lots of times that's like their wake-up moment, like just to kind of hear it from someone else.
I did feel like when I had my daughter that was all gone, and they showed me you can still do it. It's harder, don't get me wrong, but it's still possible.
You can still go back to your regular high school and get your diploma. It's just a matter of time and how you go about it.
School isn't for everybody, but you do have to do something. Like, don't let your friends be more important than your education, because in the long run, your friends aren't the one that's going to support you. They're not going to give you money for the rest of your life, and they're not going to get you a job. You need to do it yourself.
Just don't give up on yourself. After you're done doing what you need to, go back to school, get a GED, get a diploma if you can. Just do it. It makes your life so much better, and it's going to be worth it.
It just have helped me in paying my bills and be a little bit more independent with my own money, and not have anybody telling me, oh, you need to give me money because you're living in my house. I'm living in my own house,
When I learned that my freedom is actually connected to my education, because if I can support myself, I can go and do and have whatever I want. And when I realized that, I went back to school, and I used school as a tool to get me back on track. Tell you the truth, I don't regret anything I've done in the past. It happens. But see, it's up to me to turn around and fix it. So that's what I'm doing right now.